Welcome to Tea with Terri. Today I want to hit on sort of what my view of contemporary shamanism is. I had a hard time finding what to call the work I do because it's a fusion of so many different things. And contemporary shamanism seems to be, at least for now, the closest I can come to describing the nature of the transformative healing work that I practice. So I wanted to really just point out that this is a really big topic and we don't have enough tea here to go through it all. So today I'll hit on three key points that I think will help to explain why I call what I do contemporary shamanism. So the first is that the work, while I was trained in specific traditions, I have been trained in two different South American traditions, and I have trained in a Northern European tradition of shamanism. I'm not strictly following the traditional format. I am not copying what any indigenous healer is doing in their own lands. What I do is I use the tools and the techniques and the essence of the healing modalities for my clients, for those who are living here and can come see me, or for those who I work with virtually. I live in New York State and I don't have jungle plants available to work with. So I find other plants that are in my environment and that's what we work with. So I'm not copying, I'm not doing a verbatim copy or healing plan that you would find in somewhere else in the world. And truthfully, that's kind of the way shamanism works. If you know anything about shamanism, it is, in most cultures, people aren't trained to be shamans. They don't go to school and take notes and have books to read and all of that. They learn through being exposed to it. And they learn mostly through direct revelation. So shamanism is a path of direct revelation. So the land itself will teach you what you need to know in order to bring healing about. The plants will teach you, the wind element will teach you, everything, the fire will teach you. You will learn from direct revelation, from your spirit guides, from source, from spirit itself. So even in shamanic indigenous cultures, shamans who live by a lake are going to practice differently than shamans who live in the mountains, and they're going to practice differently from shamans who live in the jungle. So you see, there is a wide range of how shamans practice. And mine is a fusion really of the shamanic traditions that I've learned and I've studied very seriously, but also of so many other gifts that I've brought from my life experience. And so it is sort of a fusion of shamanism in traditional sense with many of the other beautiful healing, ancient and modern techniques that I know. My second point on why I'm considering the work I do contemporary shamanism is that, we need to adapt the work to our modern times. We live in the modern day. Nowadays, it's very possible for you to go to the internet and download a drum track. You don't need to buy a drum or go sit with the shaman who will drum for you so you can do a shamanic journey. The tools have progressed in our modern societies where we can have access to that rhythmic beat that will send you into an altered state just by downloading it off the internet, that magical web of life that we use for so many things. A lot of my clients or people who I've worked with in the past, they live in cities. I'm just a few hours north of New York City. So there are a lot of people I know who are practicing shamanism or living a shamanic way, and they live in a city. They live in a very rural environment. So just to expand this idea of shamans as, people who work in the jungle or in the mountains or by the lake, to shamans who people who work in everyday situations is, I think, just a beautiful way to make it more contemporary. I was on a phone call with a woman recently, and she lives in the city and was, expressing some angst over the fact that she didn't have daily access to nature the way she would like. And we talked about how to change that, how to go to the corner market, and any corner market in New York City has this, and probably in all the other cities as well, and buy a plant, buy some flowers and bring them home and have them in her environment, have the nature element with her in her environment. I had a teacher years ago who I assisted at many workshops, and she would always talk to people about, even though we were indoors, about grounding and connecting into nature through just the elements that were around us, the building materials. All the building materials that you can think of come from nature. So even if you are on the 50th floor of a New York City or London skyscraper, you can connect in with nature. You can connect in with the metal, the steel that built that skyscraper, the concrete flooring that's in between every floor. Just imagine how grounding it could be to use all of that material that comes from nature as a way to connect with the earth. And it could be really powerful if you can just stretch your idea of how you can work shamanically and how you can work with nature to adapt it to contemporary lifestyles, which means, we have to spend a lot of time indoors, and we live in skyscrapers, and we work in skyscrapers, and we live in cities. So all of that is still, we can have access to these ancient healing techniques and tools, even in this modern day, in our modern lives. And then the third point I wanted to make today is that, how to put this, is that our science is at a point where we are now, actually modern science, which is, I'm talking quantum physics here, and quantum science is 20th century science. It's not even like 21st century. This came out in the 20th century. 20th century science, which is considered modern science, is now affirming or reaffirming or remembering the shamanic worldview. The idea of a unified field and temporal dislocation and bilocation those are all quantum concepts that the shamans have known forever. So there's this lovely loop that we're doing in this spiral that we live in called three-dimensional life, that allows modern science, modern day times, cutting edge science to reaffirm the ancient ways. So my work involves a fusion, again, of the ancient traditions and modern scientific thought and belief. In the ancient world, we were all connected. We were all one. I wasn't separate from the tree. You weren't separate from me. We were all one. And in modern physics, that's what we're learning again. We are learning again that there is a unified field, and we are all that unified field. So I think that's enough for today. I'm really excited that you joined me, and I hope that you'll be with me next Sunday for another Tea with Terri, where I probably will go deeper into this idea of what is contemporary shamanism. And soon enough, we'll talk about the difference between my view of contemporary shamanism and traditional shamanism. So I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again soon.